would like to call to order this December 9th, 2024 Winchester Public School Board regular business meeting. Madam Clerk, for the last time, will you please call the roll? Now I'm crying.
Here.
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 Thank you very much. This takes us to the belief statement, which I will read, and then Keith will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Here at Winchester Public Schools, we believe that every student has a right to an excellent education in a safe, experiential, and imaginative learning environment. We believe that every student deserves equitable opportunities to learn, grow, lead, and serve. We believe that an intentional focus on future-ready skills and dispositions, integrated with essential academic knowledge, develops an empowered 21st century graduate. We believe that mental, emotional, and physical health are essential conditions for optimal learning. We believe that collective efficacy and shared accountability are vital ingredients to a productive, empowered workforce. We believe that Winchester Public Schools must be learner-centered, agile, and courageous in modeling the power of public education across our Commonwealth, country, and the world. We believe that a vibrant public education system positively impacts the social, economic, and civic well-being of Winchester. We believe that embracing the diversity of our students, their families, and our community is a strength that unifies us. And we believe that to achieve equity, we must clearly define and monitor the extent to which all learners and groups are empowered through access, diversity, and inclusion. Keith?
And we all rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, so for the chairman's comments, I just want to acknowledge that we're ending the second quarter, the first semester of school, so best of luck to all the teachers and the students out there as they are preparing for SOLs. And while we will get to saying our goodbyes a little bit later, I do want to acknowledge that tonight is going to be a bittersweet evening for a lot of us. Not only do we say goodbye to Ms. Bonnie, but to several board members who for many, many years have served to be important contributors to the public good, and we will get to say our gratitude. We'll get to give our gratitude to them. Okay, that's it for me. Mr. Superintendent?
I have no comments this evening.
Okay, board comments. We're going to start down here with Ms. Harris.
Okay. So I do have something to say. Good evening, everyone. I am grateful for the opportunity to share some insights from a recent Virginia School Board Association annual conference, which I had the privilege of attending in Williamsburg from November 20th to the 22nd. This event brought together educators, school board members, and administrators from across the state to exchange ideas and explore solutions to some of the most pressing challenges in education. Over the course of the conference, I had a chance to participate in sessions that provided valuable insights into topics like school finance, student achievement, and innovative programs, all aimed at improving outcomes for students. I'm excited to share some highlights with you. One of the standout sessions was The Truth About AI, explore the rising impact of artificial intelligence in education with specific focus on tools like the Gemini program that we use, which we were recognized during this program. The session highlighted the need for proactive policy development to ensure the responsible and effective integration of AI in classrooms. In the session, Get the Money, we examined financial challenges facing Virginia schools. A JLARC study revealed that Virginia provides less funding per student than the national average in neighboring states like West Virginia, Maryland, and Kentucky. The session outlined policies, options for improving K-12 funding formulas, and clarified that while there isn't a surplus funding available, there are unallocated funds that districts can advocate for. The FCPS Student Speak Out session showcased an inspiring program by the City of Fredericksburg School Board. This initiative empowers students to express their concerns and ideas about school-related issues through a mini mock school board forum. It's a powerful example of fostering student education engagement and ensuring that their voices are heard in decision-making process and strengthens their connections to schools. Finally, the Community Builders Program by Roanoke City Public Schools stood out as a comprehensive approach to building student resilience and engagement. They have a 5-week half-day summer program for rising 8th graders, which combines academic support, motivational speakers, college tours, workforce exploration, and community service. The program evaluates its impact through data on absenteeism, discipline, academic performance, and even involvement in gun violence. It also tracks participants' continued engagement in school activities, CTE courses, and extracurricular programs. By providing year-round engagement opportunities, the program helps students build resilience, stay motivated, and succeed academically and personally in a positive direction. What's particularly exciting is that I am in discussion with both Fredericksburg and Roanoke City schools about how we might implement similar programs here to benefit our students. Overall, the VSBA conference provided valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities in public education. It was an excellent opportunity to learn from other divisions and gain new ideas to help meet the evolving needs of our students. Thank you for the opportunity to share this report. I look forward to continuing these conversations with them, exploring how we can apply these ideas locally to promote educational excellence for all.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Mr. Island? No. Ms. Crawford? No. Ms. Emo? All right. Mr. Burgeonoff? Okay. That brings us to the student representative comments. We have Mr. Ankeet.
Thank you. I will be promoting my 3 schools, starting off with Vera Douglas. They would like to congratulate Christy Upshaw on being the named Teacher of the Year, and as well as on Tuesday, December 5th, we held a family holiday celebration and had a great turnout. The staff, students, and families all had a great time. Moving on to DMIS, students have been deeply engaged with their ELA classes and shared books. 5th graders are enjoying the mystery novel, The Westing Game, and 6th graders are writing about their text, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Along with the choir and band, students who are preparing for their up-and-coming winter concerts. And along with them, a few select groups of the choir students will be going on a caroling tour to visit elementary students and schools to spread the holiday cheer. Moving on to the middle school, they held their first prep rally of the year, recognizing all fall sports teams. Students and staff participated in games, and the band performed for everyone. DMS co-hosted a successful international night with DMIS, showcasing many countries with an excellent turnout, along with students who conducted student-led conferences at the end of the first quarter. And DMS had a lot of Teacher of the Year awards, starting with Ms. Cornish, and then Tim Mondo, who was recognized for their WPS Apple winner. Moving on to John Hanley, they'll be adding weapon detectors to their up-and-coming sporting events this winter season. And they'll be leading example for the Daniel Morgan Middle School, who will be implementing these weapon detectors to their buildings as well. And JHSS is gearing up for their basketball PUS event with Shenandoah basketball team. And after this year ends, we'll be having our prom expectations with attendance and referrals to have the student need basis. And that's all.
Thank you very much. Okay, this brings us to the recognitions portion of the agenda. We have 2 showcases this evening. The first one being from Daniel Morgan Middle School. Is Principal O'Donnell here? There she is.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Beth O'Donnell, the principal at Daniel Morgan.
Hi, I'm David Scott, assistant principal.
We're happy to be here this evening and present for you guys. We are going to share our MTSS process at Daniel Morgan. It's something we're very proud of. And I want to honor 2 people who are not able to be here tonight, but really do a lot of work with this, which is our MCLs, Alicia Wheeling and Emily Hauser. So we have a video to share with you this evening.
Daniel Morgan Middle School has a robust, multi-tiered support system. This is something we are very proud of and is critical to the success of our students. Our MTSS process encompasses both behavior and academics. This presentation will focus on the academic side of MTSS. Students who are working below grade level need access to both on grade level SOL content as well as content from prior years that they have not yet mastered. In addition, students who are working above grade level need the opportunity to extend their learning with higher level critical thinking opportunities. Our MTSS process allows students to access grade level material and have time built in to remediate and extend learning for all students. At Daniel Morgan, students have 30 minutes of intervention, remediation, or extension 4 times a week. Intervention personnel are flooded into classrooms at this time to provide intensive intervention. This includes reading specialists and the math interventionist. Data is used to drive intervention and enrichment. Our multi-classroom leaders lead this process. We use multiple data points to determine student needs, including long-term data such as SOL and SGA data, as well as common formative assessments and intervention progress monitoring. Our multi-classroom leaders regroup students and adjust interventions as the needs arise. All interventions are provided to students in Tier 2 and Tier 3. We use research-based interventions to address student needs. On the next 2 slides, you'll see examples of Tier 3 and Tier 2 interventions. The next slide focuses on decoding skills. Decoding skills are typically taught in early elementary school. Our reading specialists and special education teachers meet the needs of students in this area. In the video, you will see students working on the intervention program, Sound Sensible. On the Tier 2 slide, you will see students working with a Reach Associate on comprehension skills. Many of our Tier 2 interventions are focused on comprehension. In addition, our L teachers work with students to build background knowledge and vocabulary, as well as other language development opportunities.
Think of a word that starts with the k sound. Cat. Cat. Good job. How about kitten? Cap. Crib. All of our rhyming, a lot of our rhyming words start with the k sound. And the k, what are 2 ways I can write if I were writing? What are 2 letters that make the k sound? Think of a word that starts with the k sound. Kit. Cat. Cat. Warm, almost hot. She could feel the color coming back to her face. The voices were becoming clear. So what inference can we make right now? What do we think's happening? Go ahead, Kevin. Thank you.
The people from the bus came in looking for them.
And they're having a party? They
No.
decided to have a party?
No.
Okay, Emerson, what's your inference? What do you think?
They thought like the people on the bus thought like it was too dangerous to drive on the road because of the snowstorm.
Okay.
So they probably went back in and decided to stay there until the snowstorm's finished.
Interesting. How do you think they got the electricity back on?
Circuit breaker.
Warm, almost hot. She could feel the color coming back to her face.
Tier 1 English opportunities are often project-based and include working with additional text. Here you see examples of student work, including a real estate advertisement for a haunted house. Math interventions include a number of research-based programs such as Bridges, Delta, and Kickstart. In the next slide, you'll see an example of a Tier 3 intervention. Tier 3 interventions backfill gaps in math instruction. The video will show our math interventionist providing the Bridges intervention to students.
You had to label the empty boxes on the number line. And everybody, what do you think? Did he do it accurately?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure? What about you, Adrian? Did he do it correctly? Okay, well let's look at it. How did I teach you to go across the bottom to find your denominators? You had to label the empty boxes on the number line. And
Tier 2 math interventions are often language-based and focus on some remediation of grade level skills. In addition, the Delta program is used. Tier 1 focuses on some remediation of grade level skills, as well as pushes students to complete extension opportunities that are often focused on problem solving. The MTSS process at Daniel Morgan allows us to meet students where they are and provide individualized instruction while still ensuring all students have access to rigorous, aligned Tier 1 instruction in the classroom. Thank you for your time, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Do I have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? I don't think so.
Thank
You
you.
guys very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Next up, we have the John Hanley High School Showcase. Is Principal Braithwaite here? Yes, thank you.
Good evening. We are excited to introduce our talented video imaging team under the direction of Mr. Ballia, who have been working diligently to produce our morning announcements this year. This group of creative students is not only mastering technical skills in video production, but also engaging in project-based learning that allows them to collaborate, problem solve, and innovate. Let's take a look at their work behind the scenes.
Welcome to Judges TV.
Good morning, judges. I'm Angelica Vasquez.
I'm Joel Jackson.
Today's December 5th.
You're watching Judges TV.
Oh, how are we?
Girls just had their first game yesterday.
Charlie, what is the process of producing Judges TV?
Well, first we have to come together as a big group to understand what we need to create to put in each episode, whether it's sports, events, student highlights, stuff like that. And then we have different groups of people go out, make the content, give it back to me and our other editors, and then we write the script. We give that to our anchor spots. I help film the anchor spots, and then we edit it all together, and that's about
Here
it.
we have Ms. Jaham, and we were just wondering if you have seen more engagement with your students through the video announcements.
Yes, they love it. They wait for the funny parts because we all think it's funny. I love it.
Thank you, Ms. Jaham.
No problem.
Always
stay classy, judges.
I'm Catherine Arslan. I'm Kimberly Diaz.
I'm Angelica Vasquez.
I'm Joel Jackson Page.
And you're watching Judges TV.
You're watching Judges TV.
I think the morning announcements are a good start to the day. It kind of, lets students know what's happening, what is coming up. One thing I think that the kids enjoy about the morning announcements is it really puts a face onto what's happening here at Handley High School. It does add a bit of community to our school.
I think it makes students motivated to come to first block, and then you get to watch the morning announcements, and you get to see what's for lunch and all the sports events that are happening, and it's just really exciting to watch, especially when there's a lot of funny jokes in it.
I think that the morning announcements are really exciting for students because they get to see what's going on during the week, and they're just excited to see what new things they're going to see on the announcement. Cole does a really good job at getting everyone super excited and hyped for the games, and it affects the amount of people that show up to the games for the loud crowd, and I think it's had a positive effect on our loud crowd and how big it is and how many people participate.
I think there's definitely been a lot more people that attend all the games. A lot of people attend the volleyball games, and some more people attend the football games. We really love being anchors for Judges TV. We really get to interact with a lot of people. There's so many of us, and we have so much fun filming them. There's so much laughter, and we've built so many fun relationships with people.
I think it makes coming to class super exciting. We've made a lot of new friends. We work with a lot of different people that have different ideas, and it's very fun putting it all together and then watching it every morning.
So the Judges TV is a lot more than just what you see in front of the camera. The kids behind the camera are working really hard, so there is so many more factors than just the two people in front of the camera that you see every morning.
Now let's take a look at today's lunch menu.
Yeah, hold on, I'm gonna see.
I'm Catherine Arslan.
And I'm Kimberly Diaz.
And we're anchors for Judges TV.
Alrighty. How do you think the morning announcements have impacted the student body?
I think that they've made kids a lot more involved in like a lot of things like sports. I think it's like helped grow our loud crowd and stuff. I think that our information about like sports and stuff has like helped more students come out to them. I also think that it is a good reminder for students for certain things like club meetings or tryouts.
Okay, what has been your favorite part of being in Judges TV?
I think working with a lot of great people to create, I think, a very fun environment and a very fun product that gets shown to the entire school. And I think that's ultimately the best fun, the most fun about the entire project.
Okay, so this is our studio. This is where the magic happens. Obviously, we have our camera, we have our teleprompter, we have our light fixtures, we have our mics. Over here, this is where we do most of our editing. And yeah, it's really fun. I really learned a lot through it, but you know, when we're actually doing it, when we're actually working on it, what we really have in mind isn't ourselves, it's our audience, it's our viewers. That's what we really, you know, care about. That's what we really prioritize.
Look forward to watching the announcements.
I do. I look forward to watching the announcements every morning because I know there's always going to be something fun to watch and something creative, and it puts a nice start to my day at school.
Have you seen more student engagement when morning announcements are on?
I think so, yeah, because it's more of a visual aspect, whereas usually it's over the PA system and nobody's really paying attention and they're kind of just like putting their heads down and like not actually listening. And whereas now with Judges TV, there's always something like, even if it is just little, like stuff for holidays and skits and sketches and stuff like that, which I find very interesting.
I really learned about like video and storytelling in that class and just like brainstorming and also working with other people, and that made me realize that like I did really like video. So when I did graduate, I went to the University of Maryland and I majored in broadcast journalism, and there I was just like able to build on the skills that I learned in Balio's class. And after 4 years, I graduated and I went on to be a TV reporter. It was still chaotic and crazy, but I had fun. I did that for about 8 years, and then after that, I left news, and now I work on the Hill doing video. So
That's all for today's announcements. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a great day, and as always, stay classy, judges.
From scripting and filming to editing and broadcasting, their work highlights the real-world applications of media and technology. We are proud to showcase their dedication and creativity, and we look forward to seeing the continued growth of this amazing team. Let's take two for our Judges TV crew that consists of Catherine Aslan, Kimberly Diaz-Gonzalez, Charles Hoffman, Cole Jackson Page, Elizabeth Mabe, and Naya Wright. The crew is happy to take any questions from the board.
Treat.
All right, there's
Or questions or comments?
Yes.
Bizimo's got her hand up eagerly.
Yes, I do have a question. I love this. I really love that it has evolved just from the audio announcements to the visual. It does give you guys an opportunity to showcase your creativity and make it fun. One of the concerns that we had several years ago is with our students that go to governor school, right? They're not there in the morning to be able to access and to be a part of these announcements. How does this platform, in terms of how you have this visual technique, have we been able to kind of meet the needs of those students that are not there in the morning, and how do they get access to knowing what's happening in the school via the announcements that you guys are doing visually?
Well, every morning they're posted on YouTube, so whether you're homesick at governor's school, wherever you are, whether you're even just traveling and you're not at school, you can access them anytime, anywhere. You can go back 2 months later and watch announcements from 2 months ago. So yeah.
Okay, so follow up to that. So have you guys individually kind of taken some ownership or responsibility to make sure that we're reaching out to those students and making sure that they're subscribed to that channel so that they can? I just want to make sure that, of course, we have this system in place, but making sure that they're actually using it. Do we know that all of our students are actually subscribed to the channel?
We don't know if like the individual students are subscribed to it, but every teacher in the morning
shows like the name of the channel and tells them to subscribe. So they're watching it every day, even if they aren't subscribed, and then they can find it easily on YouTube, even if they aren't subscribed.
And we can also push that out in the docket, just for students that aren't physically in the building on first walk, we can do a reminder that they can subscribe to the channel.
Sure, thank you.
We can certainly do that.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Great question. Any other questions or comments?
I am just so happy to see this, and I'm so proud of you guys for doing this. I just wondered, do you do some form of like podcast to like interview other students and what they're doing, and maybe athletes or chorus, or have you gotten to that point?
Yeah.
The sports.
Oh yeah. So we have been able to do some interviews. When the election came around, we were able to interview students, but we also interact with other concepts. So we do the clubs here at Hanley. We have a group that goes around, takes a look at the clubs, and they will interview maybe the teacher that leads that club or other students that also participate. Same thing with different classes around the IC. We get interviews with different teachers and students if possible. And then we also involve with our sports system, that we try to get interviews there and try to talk to people and kind of get people engaged with different aspects around the school.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because you may be able to encourage people to join different organizations or clubs or that kind of thing. It's a great job.
Any other comments or questions from the board? All right, we expect to see all y'all on TV at some point in the near future. Thank you guys very much. Thank you guys.
Subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Okay, this brings us to the public comment portion of the agenda. Madam Clerk, did anybody sign up to make public comment this evening? Okay, is anybody here in the audience who would like to address the school board who did not get a chance to sign up for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. This includes the approval of consent agenda items, the agenda, the minutes, the bills, the monthly finance report, bus purchase, board service resolutions, and facility usage.
Motion to approve consent agenda items as presented.
Motion by Mr. Birchenough, second by Ms. Harris. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is adopted. Thank you. Reports and presentations, school board service. So this evening, like I said earlier, is going to be a bittersweet moment for some of us. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
We have 3 board members who are kind of rotating off of the board after this meeting. This is their last official meeting. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge and recognize each and every one of them. I will start, and then I will open it up to the rest of the board. If there are any comments or stories you want to share, this is your last chance to publicly embarrass your colleagues on the board. Don't miss it. I'll start with Mr. Wallace. Elias Wallace has offered this board such a unique perspective. He grew up in this town. Comes from a very particular background, and I'm so proud to have gotten to know him, and I was always appreciative when he would bring that, I don't know what to call it, that history that, I remember when we first started touring this building, in fact, he would tell us, I used to be in that classroom, and that's not something that I can say, or that many of us on the board can say. Some of us can, but not all of us, and I appreciated that about Mr. Wallace. Miss Carmen, who I've always called Miss Carmen, she's actually Miss Crawford, but I always call her Miss Carmen. Her heart is as big as Hanley High School, I think, especially the way her heart beats for the children in this community. The biggest memory that I'm going to take away, and there's lots, that last year's trip to Williamsburg was a good memory as well. But the biggest memory I'm going to take away are just the school board visits with Miss Carmen. She was always moved by just seeing the students and what they're learning and how engaged they are in the classroom. And it was just kind of, I don't know, it's contagious, that enthusiasm that you would share with the rest of the board. Last but not least, Miss Marie Emo, who gave many years of her life to service to this board, and not just that, but also served as the chair of this board for many years as well, which is something I can appreciate. I've told Marie many times she's kind of like a big sister to me. She's always kind of mentored me and looked after me, and I'm really gonna miss not seeing her every other week here. We're gonna miss also her leadership, the example that she set for each and every one of us, her strength of character, and the voice that she brought to her service to this board. So I want to say thank you to Ms. Carmen and Ms. Marie, and I'll open it up now. Maybe we'll start again down there with Ms. Harris.
Okay. So with Mr. Elias Wallace, he actually came to me when me and Carmen were running together and said, I want you to run for school board. So he kind of pushed me towards that. It's been an honor to serve with Miss Carmen, who has watched me grow up from being a little baby to the woman that I am now. Sorry. I didn't plan on crying. So it's just been an honor to serve with you. And Marie, I've learned so much from you just these couple of years that I've been here. It's been an honor to serve with you as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I still feel like a newbie here, but Carmen has really shown what school board service is like for me, and one of the greatest things that she has demonstrated is the questions that you have asked. I mean, have been just inspiring and insightful, and I really have appreciated that. Thank you, and we'll certainly miss you. And Marie, you were the first person that I met on this board when I was running for office. You were gracious enough to meet with me and tell me a little bit about what I was getting into. And in all of my many years, and I mean many years of professional life and public service, I have rarely, if ever, met a leader as passionate, as dedicated, as professional, as intelligent, and as empathetic as you. I will miss you greatly, Marie, and I will miss your laugh. So, thank you.
Start with Elias. That was my buddy for many years here on the board. Like, we were kind of thick as thieves a little bit, and I'll miss him a ton. I remember him lighting fireworks off with my kids in my backyard, right? You know, so Elias is a good dude. I'm glad he's on a cruise right now and doing better things than sitting in a school board meeting. Carmen, you've been so nice to me, and I've appreciated you. Like, I'm gonna miss you a ton. Marie, you were my chair for 2 or 3 years. I don't remember how long it was, and you know, we butted heads a few times, but I loved you for it, and I appreciated you. And one thing I meant to say is my original speech that I wrote down was like, thank you to Ray, to James, and to Kim, the spouses that give up lots of nights so that we can do this. That's important.
Dr. Van Huckelen, would you like to add anything?
Absolutely, yeah. I have 3 words. So with Elias, I want us to remember the word perspective. And Mike, you kind of gave insight into that, and Brian, just like when we need perspective on certain avenues in the life that he's lived here in this community, let's remember that, so perspective. Carmen, I want to always remember passion. And you're so passionate for the students and the children, and there's never a lost cause with you, ever. There's never a lost cause. We can save every single kid. We got them all, and we've got to go after them hard, and so let's never forget the word passion. And Marie, I want to remember the word courage. And so I know many times myself, and I think many of on the board, when we needed a backbone, when we needed, we would borrow courage from you. And so I appreciate the courage that you've shown, and so that's a word that I'll always remember for Miss Emo. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
We do have plaques.
We have plaques, but I also know that you may want to share a word or two, so why don't we do that first, and then we'll get the plaques. Ms. Carmen?
I can never leave without saying something. Always have to write down what I want to say. Ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow colleagues in the Winchester community, It is with great humility and gratitude that I come before you today to reflect on the past 4 years of service on the Winchester School Board. Serving in this capacity has been a privilege and an honor, and I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the betterment of our school system. I would like to take this moment to extend my deepest thanks to our school system as a whole, including our dedicated superintendent, exceptional teachers, and hardworking staff. Their unwavering commitment to excellence and their tireless efforts to support and nurture our students have truly been inspiring to me. I have witnessed firsthand the passion and dedication that each member of our school community brings to their work every day. Together, we have worked tirelessly to create a learning environment that fosters growth, cultivates curiosity, and empowers our students to succeed both academically and personally. I have been consistently impressed by the level of care and attention that our educators provide to each and every student, ensuring that they have the tools and support they need to thrive. It is through their hard work and dedication that our students are able to reach new heights and achieve their full potentials and be safe. As I look back on my time on Winchester School Board, I am filled with pride for the progress we have made and the positive impact we have had on the lives of our students. It has been a privilege to be part of a community that values education and prioritizes the success and well-being of our youth. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to all those who have supported me in this journey, from my board members to the incredible educators and staff members who make our school system truly exceptional. Together, we have made a difference, and I am honored to have been a part of this remarkable team. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carmen. Ms. Emo, keep it together.
I'm trying so hard. Wow. It's been a long but short 9+ years for me here. And I didn't prepare any remarks. There were so many things that I've thought of over the past few weeks, just anticipating this night, and I just really could not land on any few sentences or remarks that I wanted to say. One thing that I did want to share was over 18 years ago, before my family moved to Winchester, we were in Texas, we were a military family, and I knew that we were moving to Winchester. I intentionally decided to live in 22601 after researching Winchester Public Schools. And I knew that this is a community, or that this was a community that I wanted to be a part of. And I knew that Winchester Public Schools was a division that I wanted to raise 3 of my children in. All 3 of my children went to Winchester Public Schools. Daniel Morgan graduated from Hanley and are off doing other things. And during that time when my children were in school before I came on the board, I felt a call. I felt it was my duty to operate in the capacity where I could make a difference. Not just as a parent. I was part of the PTO and went to Frederick Douglass 3 days a week and read to students, but I felt like I could do more. And so I was very honored and thankful that I was able to be appointed to Winchester Public Schools as a school board member. And I would tell you, I had no idea what it was going to be like. You just can't know until you're actually sitting in these seats. And I learned so much about the importance of what we all do, not just the board, but our teachers and our administrators and families and community, what we do for our students every day, the importance, and those seeds sown every single day are so important. And I learned so much about myself, about our community, about our students, and I know that whoever's going to sit in my seat, that their heart is to serve our students, and to every day, along with the other school board members, make decisions that are in the best interest of our students. I can't even imagine what my life is going to be like not being here on those Mondays every month, because I've done it for so long. It is something that I absolutely love to do. And just being able to know that whatever I can give in any way to make our community and families and students' lives and teachers' lives better, it is something that is really important to me. Dr. Van Heekelen, you said something. The one thing that I knew that I was going to say today to my fellow board members is, don't ever let fear stand in the way of courage. It's okay to have fear. It's okay to have doubt about things, but don't ever let that stand in the way of us and you guys doing courageous things. We must always keep our eye on what the big picture is, and that is putting the needs of our students first, even when it's hard. Even when we're standing in the face of scrutiny, we must always remember why we're here. And as a board, I do think I would be remiss if I don't say this, that accountability piece is so important as board members. We should be accountable to one another. We should push each other to do what we're supposed to do, what we're called to do, what we're signed up to do, what our constituents voted us in to do. And that is to do the work of the board, having that vision of Winchester Public Schools Board always in mind, and pushing ourselves outside of the box. And sometimes those decisions may be in the box, and that's okay. But holding one another accountable to do exactly what we're called to do is so important. So that is my challenge to Winchester Public Schools Board. And I want to thank each and every one of you for just supporting me. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. I'm around in any way that I can help. And I'm just thankful and humble for my time that I've had on this board. Thank you.
Thank you both so very much. We do have these plaques here behind me. I'll grab them and pass them out. Much for your service and dedication to Winchester Public Schools. Can I give you a hug? Yes, you're very welcome. So now everyone sees what it's like to serve with Marie. Even her last day here, she's challenging us to always be best and to do the work of the people the right way. Yes, please.
I know one person who's not on our list is our clerk, Bonnie. We thank you for your service here as well. You are Jason's go-to person for anything that he needs to communicate to the school board. So I just want to say for myself, and I'm pretty sure the board would say, thank you for what you've done for us.
Yes, Melissa's actually a little bit ahead of the game, because I was going to take a point of order, Melissa, to acknowledge that, yes, while we're saying goodbye to some very dedicated board members, this evening also represents a goodbye for us to the clerk of the board, who has been the clerk of the board since I've been here, and I know many, many years even preceding that. I don't quite understand how so much kindness and sweetness can be wrapped into one individual. I don't know how that works. It's probably my shortcomings as a human being, because I don't have that amount of kindness and sweetness in me. My wife will tell you. But being in your presence is always a pleasure. You always have a smile for everybody. If I'm having a bad day and then it's like, God, I gotta go to a school board meeting, if you're the first person I see, it makes it that much better and tolerable. And I will open it up again. Melissa started us off, so I'll scoot down. No, that's okay. I'll scoot down here to Mr. Island if you have any words.
Bonnie, I will just miss you so much and think about you every meeting, even when you're not here. And we certainly welcome Carrie and look forward to her years of service with the board, but I'll still be thinking of you every meeting as well. So.
And Bonnie, I want to thank you so very, very much for everything. You might be Jason's go-to, but you are definitely our go-to too. Because I was always saying, Bonnie, am I supposed to do this? Bonnie, did I finish this? So, and you were always so kind and made sure that I got everything in order. I thank you so much. You are such a wonderful person, and I know you will be truly missed. Yes, of course.
And just to kind of reiterate just a few remarks that I gave when we had a chance to meet together on Thursday at your retirement reception. There's hundreds of things that we could all say about Bonnie, but I will tell you that Bonnie cares about our kids, and we know that by the way that she has taken care of us, right? And the way that she has done that effortlessly, with patience and care and kindness, it has really been unmatched. We did get I got an opportunity to meet Carrie, and I'm so happy that Carrie is replacing you, Bonnie, because I know that the board is in store for someone that is just as capable and that loves our schools and our kids, and is going to take good care of you, Jason. So, Bonnie, thank you so much for your service. Obviously, we could not have done the things that we've done without you. Thank you.
I'll echo that, and I think what gets lost in a lot of this, this building, there's a plaque out front. Bonnie's name's not on it, but maybe it should be, right? Because it doesn't happen without Bonnie. The Shahada Center doesn't happen without Bonnie. She kept the thing going for all these years, and hey, that's what Janesville Colonels do, right, Bonnie?
No, he did not.
Dr. Van Hugelen?
Yeah, I've said it enough at your going away party, but you're going to be missed, and you've given 20 plus years to this school division. You've wrangled 5 different superintendents to make sure they're on track, so thank you very much, and you will be missed by me, certainly. And Carrie, welcome to the board, and we're excited about your future here as well, and we know we're in good hands, and it's been a great transition and handoff. And have fun in Florida when you get in the car in January and buzz on down there with your new husband and just have a ball. Just have a ball.
While we're all shoveling 3 feet of snow, we'll be super, super jealous. Bonnie, we're happy to give you your flowers this evening to communicate our appreciation to you, but we also have a very small token of our appreciation. It's not flowers, but it's a little apple. Is this okay too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, moving forward. This brings us to...
Hard pivot right here.
I know, hard pivot. The weapon detector implementation at Daniel Morgan campus, Ms. Buckley.
I said, what a topic to follow that. Now, we've done so many great things with all of you in your seats, and I just want to say thank you before I get started on this. You all are aware of this information, but I just want to publicly share that we are entering phase 2 of our weapons detectors implementation at the Daniel Morgan campus. We have ordered 4 detectors. They are on site, and we have been practicing, as you will see in this presentation. Most of the slides were borrowed from the August presentation that I presented several months ago, so this is not new information, but I did leave in the video just so it's posted on our board doc site for the general public and some other information as well. What is different about this presentation is I just wanted to share the implementation timeline with you. So, as you all know, we fully implemented at John Hanley High School in August, and that went extremely well. We were very pleased with phase 1 of the implementation. That is thanks in large part to many staff members at John Hanley High School who worked tirelessly to make that implementation successful. They have created documents without us asking. They are all the time asking questions and trying to make their process better. So I just want to publicly thank the team at Hanley for working so hard to make this a success. We adjusted that process within a 3-day period, and on day 3, all of our students were in class on time. So kudos to the John Hanley High School team for working with central office in that regard. Daniel Morgan, what has been
fortunate about already having implemented at John Hanley High School is our Daniel Morgan teams have gone up to observe the process over the past month and will continue to do so throughout the month of December. They've had the opportunity to watch kids enter the building, to ask questions to the staff that are monitoring, and then to debrief with our team as well. So they are confident in the process on the Daniel Morgan campus as well. So throughout the rest of the month, both principals communicated to the families over the weekend, and they'll do student assemblies and just educate staff. And also this month we will implement at athletics events at John Hanley High School, which for Daniel Morgan will come after the start of the new year. So there will be a staggered implementation in January. One school will start, the middle school will start prior to the intermediate school. So then they will continue to, the intermediate side will observe the middle school side and then implement a week later. So if you all remember, Chaya did tell us when we did the John Hanley implementation, it's best to do one portion of the building at a time before you do full implementation, just so it's a seamless process. One thing I do have tonight for you is I have Miss Leslie Cornwell here with me. She is a staff member at the high school whose morning duty is our weapon detectors at the main entrance, and she's just going to share from her perspective what the experience has been like. If you'll remember, we were talking a little bit about hesitation over staff members, you know, monitoring the detectors and maybe searching bags, etc. So if I could invite Leslie to come on up here, she's going to share some of her experience with you all. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Leslie Cornwell, and I'm a teacher at John Hanley High School. I recently relocated from Florida, and I want to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude for the warm welcome I've received from the school district. It's truly been a pleasure to join such a supportive community. At the beginning of this school year, I had the opportunity to volunteer as part of the Open Gate team. I had prior experience with the implementation of this system, and I was eager to lend a hand to our team. Having seen firsthand how effective Open Gate can be, I knew that it could be trusted to protect our school from a mass casualty event. At the same time, I was aware of the challenges we might face, especially during the first week. Despite some minor challenges, the implementation has gone remarkably well. I have seen this process in several schools, and the implementation at John Hanley has been the best I've seen by far. I attribute much of this success to several key factors. First, the administration's commitment to preparing and supporting the team played a huge role. They invested a significant amount of time into organizing personnel and ensuring everyone was properly trained. This preparation played an integral role in the overall success of the implementation. Additionally, we were very focused on making sure that our students felt comfortable with the security measures. We wanted to strike the right balance, keeping our school safe without making students feel that we were searching for an imminent threat. Our goal was to create a positive and welcoming entry experience every day, combining efficient security protocols with a warm greeting. I believe that we've accomplished that. Another important factor was our clear communication with the students. Our team made sure to explain which items might trigger the Open Gate system, empowering students to troubleshoot potential issues independently. This allowed students to avoid unnecessary stress and ensured that the process ran smoothly. Lastly, our administrative team was flexible and responsive throughout the process. They were able to identify processes that weren't working as well as expected, listened carefully to the concerns of the team, and worked hard to resolve any challenges we encountered. This ability to make adjustments in the moment has been a key to our success. Thank you for your time and for your continued support of our efforts to keep John Hanley High School safe. I look forward to seeing our continued success as we work together to ensure the safety and well-being of our students. Thank you.
And I will just finally say that we are so fortunate to have staff that prioritize school safety. So we had several teachers at our teacher advisory meeting from the Daniel Morgan campus that have been asking several months for us to implement weapons detectors, and we're just so fortunate in that regard. So I do anticipate a very seamless implementation next month. Any questions?
Any questions from Ms. Buckley? Comments? Mr. Eiler.
Mentioned a couple of occasions the challenges that you have
Mm-hmm.
had with the implementation. Can you tell us anything about what some of those challenges have been?
Certainly. So one challenge was just ensuring that we were able to get students effectively through the detectors in those first couple of days. And I will have to give a shout out to our transportation department. We're fortunate in the school division that our elementary kids are already in school when they transport our high school students. So we had consistent and clear communication with our transportation department, and we were able to say, hold kids for just a couple minutes to make sure that we get them through the detectors. And we didn't leave kids on buses for very long, but they did hold them for an extra couple minutes, which made all the difference as we were trying to bring kids in, so the lines weren't really getting a lot longer. So that happened in the first day or so. We made some adjustments. One thing about the CHEA detectors is that we're able to, my cell phone pairs with the devices, so I can see exactly how many kids went through each detector. So we were able to adjust our process on day 2 because we realized that we had a lot more kids funneling through one detector, which was clear that that's why that line was backing up. So we just made an adjustment, pulled one to another hallway, and the next day it was much, much better. So those are the little things that happened, and none of them were major. Like at one point we had a line that was not outside the building by any means, but we did have more of a line than we wanted on day 1, which is not atypical. So that's some of the challenges. And then also just making sure that kids remember to come off the bus ready. So getting those communications out to make sure they're coming into the building and they're getting through the line as quick as possible. Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Student reps, nothing?
Well, to address like the challenges part, at the first week it was like students didn't know what was triggering the weapon detectors, like binders, water bottles, some metal pens that were heavy. So at the start it was like lines leading out where students had to wait, but after like people like Ms. Cornwell and others like Mr. Timmons who like sped up the pace, it was fast and easy. Like I arrive school a little late because I drive, but I get into class no time. I get there like less than 3 minutes from the parking lot to my class. So right now it's super efficient, and I can't see what it's like at the basketball games to see what it's like there. And I had a quick question. This is also implemented for the intermediate side as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The entire campus. So we'll have 4, 2 on each side. And one will remain at the main entrance throughout the course of the day. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your work, Ms. Buckley. Thank you. Okay, this brings us to the SEAC Fall Report. Do we have Ms. Wengard and Ms. Estock here? Yes.
Good evening, Board. It's my privilege to introduce Michelle Wingard as well as Rachel Estock, who serve as our chair and co-chair respectively of the Special Education Advisory Committee. Part of our federal regulations are that our SEAC serves as an extension of the board to apprise you all of unmet needs for our students with disabilities. So they'll be presenting on some of our fall discussions and making recommendations moving forward.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm glad to be here to provide this first more formal, official presentation to you all. My goal tonight is to let you all know about 3 priorities that we've identified as a committee in terms of unmet needs among our students receiving special education services, and also to try to explain a little bit about what we've been doing to advocate for and work towards meeting those unmet needs. So our first SEAC priority item is early childhood special education. This has been a topic of conversation at several of the recent school board meetings, so certainly not something new to you all. It's been a long-standing priority of SEACs. In fact, it was a priority item even before I joined over 2 years ago, and it's remained a top priority item for the committee. And Dr. Mullins has presented, I know, to you all, so you've heard a little bit about why this is identified as an unmet need, but just to kind of reiterate some of the things that she has shared with you. Right now, our early childhood special education students the wide majority of those students are serviced at NREP. And it's a regional program, a separate school, and they don't have access to a full continuum of service options. They don't have access to inclusive opportunities where they can interact with typically developing peers. Some students do get their services in VPI classrooms or in community-based preschools or daycares or even at home, but the overwhelming majority are serviced at NREP. And I know Dr. Mullins has communicated this, but I really want to reiterate it because it's important to the committee that we acknowledge to say that this is an unmet need and a priority item is not to say that we think NREP's doing a poor job of servicing our students. I can speak to that firsthand because my son is a student there in the ECSE program. And NREP is full of incredible professionals who are knowledgeable and passionate and skilled at servicing our students, and they do a good job. But it really comes down to the fact that we know it's within our students, our children's best interest and within their right to have access to that full continuum of service options, to have access to inclusive opportunities where they're contributing to and learning from their typically developing peers. And for a variety of reasons, under the current program structure, that's not something that many of them have access to. So another aspect of this priority item is also that some families kind of really feel this disconnect between having their early childhood students at NREP, and they might not necessarily feel part of Winchester City Schools. And so we recognize that some families would really benefit from increased continuity between those early childhood years and then moving into those school years. So this priority item has been getting a lot of attention and work recently, and we want to thank you for the support that you've demonstrated to it so far. Thank you for agreeing to the task force that Dr. Mullins has been heading up. And we were really excited about that task force and grateful. In terms of SEAC's perspective on it, Dr. Mullins and her team did reach out to us for our feedback as SEAC, and she's also kept us very well informed throughout the process of the whole, every step along the way, and also just, how it's been going, what's been involved. We've just been very well informed the whole time. And I do really want to take this chance to commend her and her team and to recognize to you all the way that they prioritized families' voice in the process. Again, I have the perspective of a parent, but they had multiple opportunities for us as parents to give our feedback in really welcoming and valued and approachable ways. It was, I think, the first voice that they sought out, and it was just really obvious that they were prioritizing families' feedback throughout this task force, and it was important for me to recognize that. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to share later tonight, and again, thank you all for the support you all have shown for this priority item. So priority number 2 is family engagement, and this is particularly related to Winchester City Schools' implementation of the I'm Determined project. And we recognize that families are a very key component of the success of I'm Determined, and we saw a need to increase families' engagement in I'm Determined. Kind of to highlight that, if you look at the I'm Determined logo, I think it's green, maybe blue. That I in the middle is representing a student because I'm Determined is a self-determination program where the student's voice and agency is the driving force. But then you see surrounding it red and yellow, and a representative from the program explained to us that those colors symbolize the school community and the families. And so we know that families are a really important piece, and we saw the need to increase families' involvement in it. So for SEAC, what that meant is we had to kind of grow in our understanding of I'm Determined. Some of us had background knowledge, some of us didn't. And so Dr. Mullins and Dr. Kirkland presented to us. They also connected us with 2 representatives from I'm Determined who virtually presented to us and educated us on I'm Determined. And then from there, we were able to plan our first family engagement event, the first ever. And so there's a picture of it there. We had a undetermined showcase in the spring of 2024, earlier this year. And it was a great turnout. A lot of families were really excited to come and see what their child was showcasing in terms of what they've been doing with Undetermined in the schools. And then we capitalized on that opportunity to also educate the parents a little bit more about Undetermined and give them some resources that they could use at home. And then the students were actually in breakout sessions by age group while we were with the parents in here. So that was really exciting, and we're looking forward to using what we learned from planning that first event into future family engagement events. So the third and final priority item is family empowerment, so some overlap, but a little bit different. All but one of us on the SEAC committee, we are parents of a child with a disability. So we recognize that when you are a parent of a child with a disability, you have to become educated and knowledgeable about a huge range of topics. And we saw a need for a place for families to grow in their understanding on a wide range of topics. And we saw an opportunity for SEAC to come alongside of the school division and also experts in the community to provide some education. And so we decided to start having family empowerment sessions before each of our SEAC business meetings. So we pick a topic and plan for an expert to come and share with families on that topic. And then families can stay and join in the SEAC business meeting if they'd like or not. And so the first two topics you see listed here are ones that have already happened, and they were really informative, good discussions. And then the third is one that we have planned for our next SEAC business meeting. So we're always brainstorming new topics and ways to entice more families to join us. So I do want to thank you all for the service you've provided for our community. Thank you for the support you've shown our students, and especially students with disabilities and special education. So I want to open it for any questions.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of information, and I appreciate. I appreciate the effort you put into this. Any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Crawford? If a 3-year-old is diagnosed with autism, what's the process of getting them into the program?
So I was going to say this is probably better answered by Dr. Mullins, but I know that there is an entire process where they have a child find team, and that is their role to then connect them with the school division. And Dr. Mullins, do you want to come answer more about that?
Absolutely. So Ms. Wingard is exactly right. We do have a division child find process beginning as early as age 2.5. We partner with infant toddler services, so any student that is turning 2.5 going on 3, that they receive services that they are required based on a medical diagnosis or pre-existing condition beginning as early as 2.5 to 3. In the event that a child experiences a new diagnosis or a new developmental concern, it's as simple as calling the special education department or their zone school, and then we enact a child study committee where we come together with the family, review the concerns. Most often it does start with a pediatrician's recommendation, and we review that and then begin the eligibility and evaluation process as appropriate. That has changed with the support of SEAC over the last 2 years. Previously, a family had to go to NREP regardless of whether they were a Winchester family or not, and since last year that has all been in-house with Winchester staff.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Wingard. Thank you. Okay, this takes us to the capital improvement plan presentation. Mr. Smith.
Good evening. Since this is so many people's last meeting, we want to make it memorable. I'm going to try and get this done in under 90 minutes. just for you, Bonnie. Good evening. So tonight I am going to present to you our first review of the draft CIP. This is the first, but certainly not the last. Because of the turnover in board, I'll present this. Excuse me. I'll present this again in January. Then we will take it to City Council and review it with them as well, and then we'll ask the new board to approve it as a final copy. Today's agenda, very quickly, is I want to describe a little bit about what's in the document that I provided for you. I want to talk a little bit about funding the projects and how we get that done. Talk a little bit about what we've accomplished in the past year. This presentation gives you a 3-year snapshot or reaches out 3 years. The document itself gives 5-year detail, so a little more detail in the actual document, but I just started with the first 3 years in this presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the requests that were asked by. We sit down individually with all the principals, and I'll just talk a little bit about their requests that are not in the plan, but that we're looking into and researching and getting pricing on and seeing if we can find another way to do that. I will talk about the biggest project that we have in the CIP over the next 5 years, and we've talked about it in the past, the Corals Elementary renovation and some HVAC work at Virginia Avenue. And then we'll talk a little bit, very briefly, one slide on the future of the CIP based on some work that we're doing. So this definition is really very clear, talks about what we're trying to do in the CIP, giving ourselves a roadmap for physical improvements, renovations, construction, and maintenance about the school district. We really do work hard on making sure that we provide facilities that are conducive to learning, that are safe for our students and our staff, and are in condition to maintain continuity of operations as we go out throughout the school year. So we really work hard on that, and this plan guides that. So a little bit of an introduction to the plan itself. It does summarize all of our facilities. It gives us a very good history of our facilities, provides a backdrop, gives some information about when they were built or rented, shows the debt service that they take on, gives you an idea of what they're working with right now financially, and what their costs are towards the schools, because it does spread out over a number of years every time we do one of these major renovations. The document itself does contain budget numbers for all of our work. Again, they are estimates, they are not actual costs. We won't know actual costs until we actually get quotes and work through the purchasing process, but we do formulate budget numbers based on experience. We use enrollment projections as a driving force for our facilities to make decisions based on what we want to do or what we need to do in those buildings. So the priorities in the plan are $50,000 or over typically. They are funded in a variety of ways, but really 3 ways. One is our carryover funds that the city gives us that's left over in our budget each year. Again, that money comes back to us, and we take that money and pour it right back into our facilities. If it's a bigger project, one that's not necessarily big enough for a bond issuance, but is big enough that it could eat up our entire contingency or our carryover account, we request what's called pay-go, pay-as-you-go, and that is a request from the city that they pay out of their general fund or have money that they have set aside and can provide to us. And then finally, there is that city bond opportunity as well. The plan also provides some insight into some non-capital items as well, including landscaping costs, that type of thing. We do set aside funds right now, specifically for the football field. We try to set aside funds each year and use those funds whenever the time comes. It's just a savings account. It's a prudent way to manage that, and it's for something that's going to cost a lot of money in the long run. And then finally, as you'll remember, every time I present this, the projects are only completed if the funds are available. So if we don't get that carryover, or if the carryover is not enough for the projects that we want to do, we obviously can't get them done. And so we always try to work within that parameter. So just as I talked about those funding examples, real quick, just to give you a snapshot or a picture, carry forward money in that $50,000 to $500,000 range. We will spend it on any number of those projects you see listed. Playgrounds and buses are always in the plan. We've done a number of athletic facility upgrades from that account, including the football field, the turf field on the football. We replaced it. The tennis courts have all been redone as well, and then the track has also been upgraded from that account, along with some additional funding that we received through fundraising. But a lot of money comes out of that account and gets poured right back into our facilities. At the bigger level, as I mentioned, the pay-as-you-go city fund balance, asking them for something in that $500,000 to $2 million range. Again, up to the city whether or not they have that kind of money to provide to the school board for the request. But you can see some things in here that we have in this plan. Practice fields, Patsy Cline seating. The Patsy Cline Theater was not renovated as part of the original renovation back in 2010, and needs some work on the seating and the carpet in that space. Conceptual design work. So when we're talking about corals and Virginia Avenue, we need some ideas on the best solutions for not only our goals, but also the best solutions for our pocketbook. And so we need to get some professionals in here to sit down with us and kind of walk us through that and help us get an idea of what conceptually we should do with that campus, whether it's renovate, and you'll see some of these options, but whether it's renovate, rebuild, we will take a look at all of that with under the guidance of architects. And then finally, the big budgets, the 7 figures that's going to take a little bit more money and is going to require an extended payback would be more of a bond issuance, and we would reach out to the city for that. And those obviously are big things like construction, renovations, and mechanical systems. So since the last capital improvement approval last year, this time last year, we've done a number of projects. You can see we've spent over $7 million really out of the COVID pandemic relief funds to the tune of, again, $7 million for all of the HVAC work. We've really done a number on upgrading our HVAC systems where we can at each of the schools. Frederick Douglass obviously had a complete renovation of their HVAC, all their lighting and some plumbing work that was done this past year. Daniel Morgan and Virginia Avenue have had components of their mechanical systems, ones that were in the worst shape. We've put money into those. Again, federal government money that we were given via the pandemic. We poured it into the HVAC. And then outside of that $7 million, the local dollars that we received carried forward, you can see we spent about $1.3 million on a number of things. Buses continue to be a large expense in our capital improvement plan, and it continues to be there. It's there every year. Again, we reiterate that with 50 buses, if you do 3 a year, it's going to take you pretty close to 20 years to get your buses turned over and keep them up and running. And so buses are expensive, and they've gotten more expensive, as I've mentioned, whenever I first brought the buses to you for this year's purchase. Some of the other bigger ones, we poured some of the money, so out of that $7.1 million of the ESSER money, we still had some money left that we needed to put towards the HVAC to get it finished, and so we added about $400,000 of our own local dollars to those projects as well. And again, I remind you that none of this stuff could have been done without the carry forward money. That money is very important to us, and I hope that we continue that with that relationship with the city. Out of the last capital improvement plan, we completed 91% of the work that was scheduled last year. We had one project that didn't get wrapped up, and we're going to look at that in the coming year. So here's a project summary for the next 3 years. As I talked about, that set aside for the turf football field. We set aside about $60,000 a year into its own account, and that way, whenever we do get to the 12-year mark, we'll be close to that $1 million that you need to replace that field. In this coming year, we don't have any really, really big projects. This is the first, I think in the 10 years I've been here, this will be the first year that I won't be working on a multi-year project. We did John Kerr, we did Shahada, we did Douglas, and we did HVAC at Frederick Douglass. So this is the first year we won't have a multi-year project, but we will be sliding into multi-year more than likely, depending on City Council's agreement with starting to work on the Virginia Avenue and the Corals Elementary projects. This year we do want to work on some concrete work at the Hanley Bowl. A number of spots over there where it's cracked and it's just aged and water gets in there in the winter, it freezes, expands the crack, and we've got some deterioration there we need to spend some money on, some time on, before it becomes a safety problem. We do need to replace our playground at Virginia Avenue, Charlotte DeHart Elementary School, one of our oldest playgrounds in the district, and is in need of replacement, and that's a goal of ours as well. And then some various small projects with security improvements and some landscaping. As you see moving out, a little further down the road, we would like to get into Patsy Cline. I talked about the VACDES of Virginia Avenue and the Garland Corals, the study and the design for Virginia Avenue. Bus replacements will remain on there. And then I think that's the summary of the next 3 years, but one of the things I do want to mention is that, and you can see the asterisks on this slide, one is that all of our mapped out plans really hinges on the facility condition assessment that we are in the middle of, okay? So last month, in November, Gordian brought out their team. They spent a week at the schools. They have completed their study. They are inputting the data into their software. I have a meeting with them on January 9th to review that data, where they will provide us with a prioritization of equipment, and will also provide us with cost estimates for that in the future. So all of that information is going to go into future capital improvement plan. My goal would be, after we wrap things up with Gordian in the late winter, early spring, that I go back to the capital improvement plan and reformulate that, and maybe even bring that back to the board as a mid-year look ahead. You know, sit down and look at it, see what we've learned from the facility condition assessment, see what kind of impact we can have on that CIP and how we can change it, and make sure that we're doing the highest priority things that the professionals, the mechanical engineers and the architects came in and found. So looking forward to that. Any questions about that 3-year outlook, just to give you a snapshot of what we're looking at?
And if I could just reiterate the facilities condition, what do you call it, the condition assessment. And so you remember, y'all approved that external contractor to come in, and in my experience, every time that happens, they find more, not less, right? And so and that's what you pay them for. You pay them to go deep into the bowels of your school and really find the things that you might not see on the surface, so that we're prepared for the future. So I'm looking forward to the outcome of that, and certainly would expect that we would come back to the board probably in April with a revision to this plan, and with the data from that assessment to give us a roadmap for the future.
Thanks. So this slide reflects, and there's 2 slides, two of these slides, each with 3 schools on them, and some of these are just, again, we sit down with every principal. I send out a questionnaire, I have them fill out the questionnaire, and then I go and sit down with them and meet with them and walk the schools, and we talk about what it is that they would like to see at their schools. We go through that with them. Out of those conversations, a lot of things come up that don't necessarily meet the threshold for the capital improvement plan, but they are stuff that needs to be done in the building, or stuff that the principal would like to have. Sometimes it's a new principal and they just want to make some changes. Sometimes it's a principal that's been there, but they have something that they want to add on there. So these are things that didn't get into the CIP, not because we're not going to do them. Some of them we're actually already researching. A lot of them are in study. And we're trying to figure out how can we best pay for some of this stuff out of our local budget. Maybe I'll have some carryover money left over after we finish the major projects. Or maybe I can get a grant. I already have some security grant money that I'm going to put towards some of the things that are on this list. But you can see on here, these are, again, some of the things. Some of the things are not aesthetically what we want at our schools. Some, you know, hey, we want you to throw up a fence here, or we want you to take down these trees, or whatever it may or may not be. But some of those things we have to kind of sift through and make a decision on. Some of the things are, we realize that they're there. We just haven't put the effort or the time into them yet to get to them, but we know that they're a need. So for technology improvements, if you just look at Hanley as that example, they're all in the research phase right now. We're looking at, but 3 of those things, well, the Patsy Cline marquee and the gym scoreboard were all put in the original renovation in 2010. It's 2024. We're 14 years in. Everybody knows technology is good for about, what, 7, 8, 9, 10 years maybe. We're at year 14, 15, 16 for these things. So some of these things we got to just research, find out how much they're going to cost, look into seeing if we can replace them maybe with something different. So all these things are still under consideration. Principals, they ask for it. We research it. We give them. We do what we can for them. We have, you know, Shahada and Hanley were combined. They're tied into the high school, and so we've got some stuff there that they request extra cameras. Again, if I have some money from a security grant, I can fund it that way. Some of the things we've already completed. You look at Daniel Morgan, door lock upgrades. They were looking for some things done with their doors. We've already finished that. On the next slide, you'll see Frederick Douglass Elementary School was looking for additional security cameras. We've already taken care of that. Some of the stuff like PA system upgrades. Some of the schools are like, mine doesn't work the way I think it should or the way I want it to. Is there a way we can do that? And so I've sat down with technology, and they're saying, well, we can look into this and see what we can do. Additional walkie-talkies at Corals. I just completed a security grant that's going to pay for those. So there's all these different ways to pay for stuff. Again, we do our best to get to all of them. Again, we'll take time and we'll be in understudy. Some of them may not get done this year, maybe delayed a year, but we do look at all of them. And for Corals, the majority of those would probably come during the renovation, right? If we do a renovation on that building, lighting in the parking lot, the PA system, replacement of their fence, the blacktop resealing, all that stuff. I would prefer not to pour money into that. If we're going to get a concept study done, they're going to come in and say, change this, and then all that blacktop that I just resealed is going to get removed. So we look at all the things that are going into each of the buildings whenever we study this. So our future projects requiring bond support. This portion of the presentation is basically a repeat with updated numbers, but you know the 2 schools that have the most need right now, Garland Corals, they've got the section opened in 1955, minor renovation in 97 where they added a cafeteria, gym, and some classrooms. That 1955 section, I'll run through these pictures very quickly, but you've seen them, you've been in the school, you know it's dark, you know that it needs work. Virginia Avenue is the same thing. We did replace one component of the mechanical systems at Virginia Avenue with the new chiller that we got out of the COVID money, but that system still needs a complete overhaul, and it's going to be a very big one and a very expensive one because everything's in the attic, and we have to basically take down the side of the building and pull everything out of there. So it's going to be an expensive plan. I did get pricing from Loudoun County Schools. I reached out to them. They are constantly renovating, building new. So they really have their pulse on construction costs. And so I reached out to them and received their most recent pricing for what their projects look like. And well, first I'll run through these pictures. The roof, the chiller, the ductwork. You can see the building, this basement, as we all know, continues to flood. The brickwork on the side of the building absorbs moisture. Dark interior, limited ADA accessibility. We just had to fix and replace that chair lift on that one section of hallway to the tune of about $30-something thousand. And so these are the kind of things that we want to get replaced in a renovation so that we don't have the ongoing cost of dealing with them. So I reached out to Loudoun County and got their pricing on what it would cost for renovation and addition, square footage addition costs. They provided that information to me, and we've used that in this calculation. At a minimum, we need to get the HVAC and lighting upgrades done at those two schools. That's the absolute minimum. Those are mechanical systems. They are old. They need to be taken care of. Outside of that, if we could do our HVAC and lighting at Virginia Avenue to the tune of about $9 million, and at Corals, renovate 45,000 square feet, which is the 1955 section, and then do HVAC and lighting for the entire building on top of that, it would run us in the $36 million range. What I don't have in here is a price to knock down the building and completely replace it. That's part of the stuff that we might uncover as part of the research and the conceptual study. But option 3 is the big one. $40 million is where we're at right now. Again, that's for HVAC and lighting at Virginia Avenue, and then a $31 million renovation and expansion at Coral. So we would renovate and then add classrooms. Now, why would we add classrooms? We'd add classrooms for the reasons that are listed there in that bullet. We would move our 5th graders back to the elementary schools. We would close the intermediate school, make the middle school 6 through 8 again, and rezone all the elementary schools to align with that 5th grade, dropping down back into those buildings. And so we believe that an expansion of 10 additional classrooms gives us that breathing room at those levels. You guys were not here, but that whenever they moved it up to 5th grade, it was because they didn't have, when they moved it to Daniel Morgan, it was because they didn't have room in the elementary schools. We would need to create that room to get the 5th grade back down into that level. And so that would be our goal under this.
If I could just add, that is our recommendation. So our homework is to give you different options, but you'll see in the CIP those of you who are here in January and the new board members that join us, the CIP that we're going to ask you to vote on and approve includes option 3. And I can't stress enough just how important I believe expanding Corals. While we're in it, we got to spend $9 million to do the HVAC anyway, so we might as well capitalize on that and redo that old building, and at the same time add 10 additional classrooms. I have yet to meet a parent in this city that's excited about sending their 4th grader to the middle school campus. And I personally have a philosophy of keep them young as possible, as long as possible, right? And so we would really like to move that 5th grade back to the elementary schools, and this would allow us to do that. And then we would have a true middle school, a 6th through 8th grade middle school. And we would have significant savings too from essentially closing a school, right? And so we would redistribute staff. It would be a large undertaking to be sure, but there would be operational savings in doing that. So that is what you see in the plan. When you actually vote to approve, that's the number you're approving unless you tell us otherwise. And that's also how what we'll be discussing with City Council, I believe on January 18th. We'll be going through these same scenarios with City Council and advocating for those projects.
Thank you, Dr. Van Hukelum. I appreciate your acknowledging the cost saving that will happen in the long run. I think that's where we are with this issue is we can cut costs in the short term and get done the minimum amount that we need to get done. But really, to see those cost savings in the long run, you have to spend a little bit more money up front. I hope that we can make the case that this is a good thing for Winchester Public Schools. We've always been proactive. The fact that we're holding a school board meeting in this very building was a proactive vision that we had. Instead of renting the building on Washington Street, we already own this building. So I'm hoping we can continue that tradition of being proactive. We've seen, unfortunately, kicking the can down the road locally in surrounding districts. That doesn't always pan out. deciding not to spend some money now, Corals is not going to get any younger. So if we don't spend the money now and we postpone that project 5, 10, 15 years down the road, it's only going to cost more at that point in time. So I hope the board takes that into consideration when we get to the point of approving this CIP. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have one question.
Yes.
And I'm sorry if you said it, I may have missed it, in terms of when we're looking at that $31 million number for Corals in terms of renovation. Are we prepared to have an answer for City Council when they say, have you explored, I know you talked about a little bit in terms of what's the cost for building a new school? What are we going to say to that?
I don't even know where that would start, to be honest with you. I mean, it's going to be, to build a new school, you'd have to go in there and tear that down. You'd probably have to, all the kids would have to go elsewhere. And I do not know where that would be, whether it be they all go to other elementary schools, whether we find another way to do it. But there's an expensive addition to that. I do not have a number. I mean, I can go and pull up my number of what a new construction costs for an elementary school from what I got from Loudoun County. Of course, that data is at least a year old, right? Because they're already in building these things. And so,
I just think we have to be prepared to answer that. I can anticipate that question being asked, for sure.
Yeah, to build new.
And I would add, my answer would be that, what we're asking for this year is $500,000 for that concept design, and Ed mentioned that earlier. Like, that engages an architect, and we task them essentially with exploring all the different avenues forward, and that would be part of that conversation. And they may find something in the bowels of Corals and come back and say, oh my gosh, you guys need to tear that puppy down and rebuild, and here's the cost. But that would be part of the conversation. But it does present a ton of logistical challenges with what do you do with 400 kids essentially while you tear down. Now, you do have a front yard, and I think we've done something similar with Virginia Avenue in the past when we built that new school. So, but that's what you engage the experts. They help you through that, and I
think all the kids came here.
Did they really?
When they built, when they tore down Baghdad's, they tore down from they like literally, but everybody came here. The kids came here for a couple of years, I think. Now it's not. Now
so that would be a challenge for sure.
So, this is the last slide, and we've already talked about it a little bit, but I'm not sure how the facility condition assessment is going to impact the CIP, but I can tell you that I'm excited about it, okay? It's going to provide us with data, real, live, actual data of what we have in our buildings today and what it's going to cost to replace that stuff in the future. And so it's really going to drive home what we need to plan for in the future. We do our best guesstimate and estimate of based on how much time and money we're putting into a component or whatever it may be, but this thing's really going to help us be more proactive and prevent those future emergencies. So again, I will rework the CIP in the spring once we get this thing and follow up with the school board, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get from the company and how we can implement it into our planning for the future. I do expect it to change and looking forward to it for sure. Anything else?
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Smith? All right, thank you, Ed.
All right, thank you.
All right, this brings us to the action item portion of the agenda. First up, we have the ECSC Task Force proposal with Dr. Mullins.
Good evening. I'm very excited to present to you the third and final report from our Early Childhood Task Force and just our recommendations to the board, which we will be requesting formal action on tonight. Just a review of where we've been this fall, you all did enact an Early Childhood Task Force that comprised of 2 total phases, tasked with answering the critical question of should we bring an early childhood special education program in-house to Winchester as opposed to continuing with our partnership with Northwestern Regional Education Program. As you heard from Ms. Wingard earlier, we have been extremely satisfied and families have been extremely satisfied with student outcomes and the services that they've received, but we have identified some growing gaps in the services that our families have been able to receive due to the physical location of having a separate program. As I had presented back in October, our first phase really focused on engaging our families, and we did begin with our families first through surveys, live informational sessions and listening tours, as well as one-on-one meetings with our department, as well as expert consultation tasked with helping apprise our task force at what makes a quality early childhood special education program. We very intentionally wanted to begin with the high quality aspect of the programming because we did not want this to be a sheer recommendation to simply move a program from one location to the next, but how is it and can we and should we enhance it in different ways? Phase 2, which I'll present on tonight, focuses on, so based on that information, is it actually feasible to bring this program or what would be considered a high quality program to Winchester Public Schools? As you remember, I did share in phase 1 what our overall process consisted of. First, it included our family engagement with multiple stakeholders, including our Special Education Advisory Committee, as well as individual family members. I'd like to publicly thank our family members as well as our SEAC for giving us all of the ins and outs about their experiences to help make this a quality recommendation. That was also partnered with expert consultations. I will be the first to identify that my background is not early childhood special education, although I am tasked with leading it. And so we partnered with a wide range of experts, including experts at NREP, experts in Winchester, experts at our university partners, as well as the VDOE, to help identify what components of early childhood programming aligns with research and our current needs. And as a result, we proposed to you all in October the recommendation for the consideration of a continuum of services ranging from full to part day offerings, community-based services, itinerant services, so students coming and going to our locations for services, as well as our standalone speech services. Our second phase, which we have enacted since the end of October, was really studying the feasibility of these recommendations. What is it going to cost, both from a human resource element, fiscally, operationally, to actually do what we envision? And I'd like to thank my fellow cabinet members for really digging in deep to determine what this would look like. Everything from the most basic of detail to the biggest of plans has been considered by each director, and for that I'm very thankful for their engagement in this process. Before I get into each department's recommendations and considerations, I did want to give just an overview of how many students and the scope of services that we are basing the consideration for. The federal regulations do require a mandatory caseload maximum of 8 students per teacher and TA for students who are considered center-based. That refers to students who are receiving direct special education services in a special education classroom. Right now, the majority of our students are at NREP, but those students now may be in a public school. So our caseload is bound by a regulatory requirement of 8-to-1. For our students who are considered non-center-based, examples of that would be students who are in a community-based preschool that requires some services, or a family may choose to have their child stay at home in a developmentally appropriate location until they go to kindergarten, but they are still in need of services. Those would be examples of non-center-based services where we would be going out into the community to provide a service. Those caseloads are a little higher, and they are capped at a ratio of 10 students to 1 teacher and 1 TA. Our VPI programs would also fall into that, where we would be promoting more inclusive practices as well. Additionally, we have a caseload maximum of itinerant services, and that also refers to going out in and providing relatively mild to moderate services in a wide range of locations. And that caseload is 12 to 1. So those are some of the numbers that we have to work with under the federal regulations. Additionally, looking at our current needs and our projections, we based a lot of our study on our most recent hard number, which was a total of 60 students. The term developmental delay or equivalent refers to students who are identified under one of the 14 different disability categories, excluding speech language impairment. So while a large number of students who are ages 2.5 to 5 are identified as having a developmental delay, you may also see students with autism, hearing impairments, or another categorical identification. And then speech and language impairment under the regulations is a standalone impairment. It's very narrow in scope. We then based our recommendations on 25% growth over the next 5 years for a total of 75 total students served. And the rationale being, each year I've had to come to you requesting additional money because early childhood has grown year over year over year. Our goal in the feasibility study was to also recommend not just a high quality program, but a program that can be sustainable for the next 5 years. So we based the growth off of our average growth plus a little, just to make sure that this was a sustainable program. I think that it's also important for us to note that one of the challenges with trying to figure out how many students we will serve is just due to the fact that preschool is non-mandated in Virginia. What that means for our early childhood special education students is that there is a high level of deference to our families to determine to what extent they wish their child to be educated. So unlike the K-12 setting, where we are responsible for enacting the free and appropriate public education requirements that any student is eligible for, we still recommend those same level of requirements, but families have the option to pick and choose which services best meet their needs. So some years we could have, say, the same number of students that require full-day programming, and we can have some of our families take advantage of it, but not all. So we could have a little bit of wiggle room with our service needs there. However, we could have other years where all of our families want to take advantage of those services. So really trying to grapple with how do we create a program that is flexible in nature, but also prepares for the maximum amount of students served, but then flexibility in the event that those students do not choose to come to us until kindergarten. So starting with human resources, in order to staff the program based on our current needs as well as our federal and state requirements, we would need 3 prongs of human resources. First, beginning with our leadership team. We would need a program coordinator, which we have determined would be appropriately absorbed within current administrative functions. So that is not a new position, but we would need the reallocation of a position to serve, at least in part, this position and this need. The instructional coach is recommended as almost a number 2 for the program administrator. The program coordinator is a huge job, and so we do need someone that can not only support the instructional needs of the students and the staff, but then also be ready and able to fill in as that number 2 from a leadership perspective. This instructional coach position, you'll see in future slides, is a recommended human resource need and would be an additional position where the program coordinator would not be.
Hey, if I could just interrupt you, from the leadership point of view, these 2 folks would oversee both VPI, our current preschool classrooms, along with the special education, hence the desire for 2 people in that leadership role.
From an instructional standpoint, we would require 6 special education teachers and 5 teaching assistants. We'll go into how those staff members will be served in flexible models depending on how our families may choose to access our services. And then in addition to our instructional services, we would anticipate the addition of related services. So an additional school psychologist for the purpose of child find and evaluations, one speech-language pathologist to deliver our speech services, and then 1.5 occupational therapists. This is actually quite exciting because right now we do not have any Winchester Public Schools occupational therapists. We currently contract out for all of these services. So this would bring an in-house resource within this current recommendation, which is very exciting to the team. Ed and I have spent a lot of time together over the last couple of months. And so first I wanted to review some operations considerations, specifically talking about the logistics and building operations. So looking at the physical number of spaces that we would need to house such a program, we would be looking at 4 total classroom spaces, each represented by a different color. What we aspire to do would be to have full-day offerings here, where we have that maximum caseload of 8, and then part-day offerings for some of our younger students, for those who may not need intensive services, or for students who may need more inclusive services in our preschool programs. So we would have 2 physical spaces that are designed to have a morning group, while the afternoon group either goes out or goes out into the community. Then the afternoon group comes in. Under the regulations, unfortunately, this does not mean that we can have the same teacher teaching the students. We are capped at that 8 for these classrooms, but this does allow for additional staff to then go out either A, into the community, or B, go into co-taught preschool classrooms where currently we have no services at all. So these particular classrooms come with a lot of excitement, particularly with our VPI colleagues when we presented this. Also, as far as building space, we have looked at elements such as staff offices, spaces dedicated to speech therapy, and then our related services, so occupational therapy and physical therapy. In addition to the physical classroom and office spaces, Ed and I spent a lot of time looking over the other logistics under his department. So looking at the implications for transportation, playground access, as well as food service. As it relates to transportation, they did determine that we would be able to reallocate our current routes with no additional costs to transportation. We would just need to shift and work very intimately with them regarding the routes and the arrival and dismissal times to make sure that it's as seamless as possible. And when we looked at the potential for the car rider impact, there's no apparent impact on our car rider lines or anything like that. In looking specifically at playground recommendations, depending on the site that is identified, we do anticipate some site updates that are recommended, not necessarily fully required. In looking at all of our sites, we would acknowledge that many of our playgrounds do have some accessibility considerations that we would like to update to maximize both the developmental appropriateness as well as the physical and cognitive access of our students with disabilities. However, there was no one singular site in which an early childhood special education student just completely could not access the space. So those would be site specific. And then no anticipated substantial food service impacts. In looking at the financial impact, we budgeted our 2025-26 projections based on a budget of $1.4 million. That $1.4 million is NREPs or ours, whatever our pleasure may be this evening, but that is not in additional funds. This is our current operational budget for early childhood special education, regardless of the location. So should the board choose to maintain its relationship with NREP for early childhood, we would still be paying this $1.4 million. So that became our baseline for what is it that we can do with that money, and would we need additional funds to fund this particular program. We itemized key bucket areas, and I'm happy to entertain any specific questions. The bulk is related to staffing that you've seen in our human resources, so that would be our instructional coach, our teaching staff and teaching assistants, our school psychologist, occupational therapists, as well as speech-language pathologists. Also, our contracted services, that refers to our low incidence disabilities in which we do not have the number of students in order to hire a full-time person to serve those students, and therefore we are required to contract out with an agency to provide those services. Most commonly, that has been hearing impaired services and vision impaired services. Classroom setup and materials, we've budgeted $200,000, and then evaluation materials refer to the actual diagnostic and some of our shifts in how we're going to be evaluating or needing to evaluate our earliest of learners. Historically, we've been evaluating our K-12 learners, so there's just some minor updates to our evaluation materials. The transitional costs at the very top refer to any unanticipated non-contract work that some of our staff who are in transition may need to access. So for example, in the event that we did hire a coordinator of our early childhood special education programming, if they were concurrently completing their duties for the remainder of this school year while they're trying to get an early childhood program up and running, we would then have funds to provide non-contract pay and additional fiscal considerations for extra duties while they transition to potentially a new position. When you put it all together, we would be looking at some potential upfront costs under $50,000. Many of these are overestimates. We have not required contract services, for example, of up to $20,000. So that did have a little bit of inflation just in case. So this is a pretty robust estimate of if there were any upfront costs, what that would look like. But then subsequent cost savings are a little under $160,000 in subsequent years. Well, we do want to be very clear that the initial ask is because this is what's right for kids and families. We were very excited to see that a quality program is very financially feasible under our current structure. There are some additional fiscal considerations that may impact the long-term budget, some in a positive way. So right here, you heard that we have historically had to contract out for all our occupational therapy services. If we were to enact our early childhood program, we would synonymously be recommending to hire our own occupational therapists as well for our K-12 students, which would bring an additional cost savings of almost $55,000, which if you go back up to our anticipated upfront costs, could then neutralize even our startup costs. Additionally, in looking at other impacts, both in technology and in operations, we would anticipate that any recommendations for playground equipment would be considered under capital improvement under Ed's leadership. And then as it relates to technology, Aaron or Mr. McBride had determined that any technology needs related to the new staff would be able to be absorbed under their current technology budget. This evening, it's with great excitement that I am formally requesting that the school board initiate its own in-house early childhood special education program. This would then remove our relationship with NREP for the early childhood component. This has no impact on our K-12 programming at NREP, but it is with great excitement that we do make the recommendation for an in-house program. Should the board vote to approve this recommendation, just here's a snapshot of what we would anticipate our next steps. In January, we would begin very quickly to establish that leadership team, post for positions prior to the winter holiday, and have that leadership team intact for January to begin the work of hiring staff and building the program. Throughout the spring, we would be very excited to collaborate with our program development that would include collaboration with NREP current staff, but also our VPI teachers who are very much invested and interested in creating a collaborative and inclusive program opportunity. In summer, we would continue the program planning and enact professional development for our VPI staff and new staff. And then finally, we would implement the program in August. I'm happy to entertain any questions, but otherwise very excited for this recommendation this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mullins. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Birchall.
So in summary, we would save money in the long run and get these kids in our own buildings.
That is correct.
Okay.
We can not only do right by kids and families, but do right by the budget. That's the best of both worlds.
And not even in that distant of a future, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a very short, long run. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I just had a question. When we're looking at implementing this program, are we aware of any other school divisions, even out of the state of Virginia, where they are operating under the program like we have, where there are services in separate locations, and we're looking at the outcomes? Do we anticipate that? Because it's good, we want to have better family engagement. We want our families to feel like, you know, they're a part of what's happening in their home schools. And of course, the continuity of care. But when we're looking at those outcomes for students in terms of learning and development, do we see any correlations in terms of having everything under one roof where those outcomes are much higher?
Absolutely. So there are a couple of research indicators that we've looked at. First and foremost are the inclusive access research indicators. We know that our students with disabilities, particularly in the early developmental years, maximize their outcomes by having access to typically developing peers. So regardless of whether there was a single site location or a location at each of our zoned elementary schools, the inclusive access research is critical and has been the driving force of this. As it relates to our current program model and a one site, or a single site rather, program versus a multi-site program, there are a couple of indicators that we looked at. One is just regarding the universal design concept, in which a lot of the research out of early childhood realms suggests that a single site location gives you the maximum flexibility to serve the needs of all learners. If you, for example, had one teaching group, an early childhood special education teacher and one TA at one elementary school, so one at each of our 4 elementary schools, we certainly could serve the students, but that one teacher and one TA would not be able to go into other VPI programs at the same time as providing direct full-day services. So that's another indicator. What is very unique to our current NREP model is we are not aware of any current program that operates under the regional structure. That is a structure that dates back 30 years when preschool programming was not a common program option in Virginia. So these students needed services, but there was not an option to do so. Since the inception of our school-based preschool programming, it has been very common for for school divisions in Virginia to create their own inclusive programming models. And so the regional program option is very unique. Additionally, regional programming now falls under different financial considerations, referred to as intensive support needs, and early childhood is not under the intensive support needs program. As it relates to single site and other considerations, there are some school divisions who have chosen to have separate sites for their entire preschool and early childhood program. Lynchburg City Schools is one great example of that, but they house early childhood and VPI all together under one roof. And they've seen very similar outcomes as school divisions who have chosen to have maybe a school-based site. And that is because students in either type of programming have access to their typically developing peers. So that really seems to be the biggest indicator of is how are we getting these students access to their typically developing peers.
Any other questions for Dr. Mullins? If not, I will remind the board that this is an action item.
Motion to establish an in-district early childhood special education program resulting in the termination of partnership with the Northwestern Regional Education Program, NREP, for early childhood special education programming effective the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. by Mr. Island, A second by we'll put Ms. Crawford in the minutes for her last meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. This is exciting. Next up, we have the presentation by Dr. Bula about the program of studies.
Good evening, everyone. Each year, modifications are made to the high school program of studies to reflect changes at federal, state, or local levels. And so to comply with these changes, school board will annually review these. And as you can see, so the first thing is a list of course additions. And along with that, there's descriptions underneath as to why those additions were made. So there's various things. Some are specifically around special education, and others are around remedial classroom classes as well. And in terms of additional information for the program of studies, we've got reference additions. So each time that there's references that are put in there, those are added as well, so you can see those. So for instance, Judges 9 new this year, so that's an addition to that, just so it's kind of laid out for you all. The thing I'm most excited about is it is online now. And so Ms. Badman and her team have done a wonderful job of making this available as a Google site. And so if you remember last year, the program of studies was over 100 pages. Super fun to look through when you're a student, right? Now this is an opportunity for an easy layout. You can quickly go through it. And then the other thing that we've talked about for a number of years is getting our program of studies translated, right? Well, this can easily be done with Google. So if I'm surfing the internet and all of my sites are in Spanish, when I click on this, it would also be in Spanish as well. So this is a huge undertaking. I know it didn't happen overnight. And so as you go along, you can see there's a variety of information about each course, and each opportunity for students gives just a nice updated look for our students and families. Thinking about, you know, my first time, even though I've been over this program, being a dad, you look at it differently. And so having an opportunity to offer this for our upcoming freshmen is a great opportunity as well. And some other modifications, of course, minor language formatting edits, things like that. And then finally, course deletions, which typically, so for the first two, for instance, the life skills with reading and math, those were actually added to life skills as a course addition. So it's just kind of reworking what those courses were.
I know Ms. Crawford had a question about that. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yep, so the, and that will be in the course edition as well for the economic and personal finance in there.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Bula? Okay, this too is an action item.
Motion to approve 2025-2026 high school program of studies as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Harris.
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bula. And our last action item of the evening, oh, my internet just froze up. It's the calendars with Ms. Buckley again.
So, since the last time I was with you all and we presented calendars, we have made some revisions. After the first meeting in November, we sent a survey to our staff, and I received about 100 responses, of which nobody wanted to start school in July. So if you look at the last slide of my presentation, I added the revisions that we made that can make that happen. In particular, I've got the calendar up, but in fiscal year 26, teachers would now start on Monday, August 4th. Students would then start on August 12th, and if you remember, one thing our staff didn't love and our families didn't love was a full 5 days that first week, so that meets both of those requests. Fiscal year 26, the change also is October 13th then becomes a student day, and May 28th and 29th also become student days. And then in fiscal year 27, teachers start on Monday, August 3rd. Students again start on a Tuesday, August 11th, so we have the 4 days again. And then May 28th then becomes a student day. So those are the difference between the last calendars I presented and this calendar. And so we believe that will be much more positively received by our staff.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley. This is like the most underappreciated task to take on, I think, creating the calendar. You can't please everyone. Any questions or comments for Ms. Buckley? Okay, this is an action item? Okay. Your last motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 division calendars as presented.
Motion by Ms. Emo. Second by Mr. Island. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So in the future, when somebody gets mad about the calendar, they have to go see Ms. Emo. Okay, this brings us to the need for closed session. Mr. Birchenough.
Pursuant to sections 2.2-3711A1 and 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia, a motion that the board convene in closed session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters, specifically coaching stipends, administrative stipends, substitute teacher and support staff roster resignation, and for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel regarding the legal aspects, including related policy and process considerations involving the review of allegations concerning the application of school board policies related to the performance and discipline of an employee of the school board.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Birchenough. Second by Ms. Harris. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are in closed session. Thank you.